In 2001, a whiskey from a small distillery in northern Japan did something nobody believed was possible. It beat every single malt in Scotland. At the awards, Scotland itself considered home turf. The whiskey world called it an upset. Japan called it the plan working. This is the story of how Japan took Scotland's greatest creation, perfected it, and built one of the most sought-after spirits on the planet, and why most people drinking it today still don't understand what they're holding. In the winter of 1918, a 24-year-old chemist named Masataka Taketsuru stepped off a cargo ship into the damp cold of Glasgow. Sent by his employer to study Scotch, he bypassed the comfort of academic theory for the demanding physical labor of the distillery floor. At Longmorn in Speyside, he worked the coal-fired kilns and cleaned the mash tuns. At James Calder and Company, he mastered the complex mechanics of coffee grain stills before studying blending at Hazelburn in Campbelltown. While lodging in the city, he fell in love with Jessie Roberta Cowan, known to her family as Rita. On January 8, 1920, they married at the Calton Registry Office, defying intense family opposition to forge a lifelong partnership. When they sailed back to Japan in late 1920, Taketsuru carried the complete technical blueprints of distillation in his leather-bound notebooks and the quiet resolve of his Scottish wife by his side. They returned to construct a new empire of spirit, starting with nothing but raw knowledge and a shared determination to make the student surpass the master. In 1923, the ambitious merchant Shinjiro Tori provided a physical home for this imported expertise, hiring Taketsuru to design and construct Yamazaki Distillery in a misty, water-rich valley outside Kyoto. This initial collaboration established Japan's oldest commercial malt whiskey plant, but the partnership soon fractured under the weight of competing commercial and artistic philosophies. Tori favored a lighter, cleaner spirit tailored to the subtle local palate, designed to reach Japanese consumers quickly. Taketsuru, fiercely unyielding in his devotion to the Highland traditions he had labored to learn, insisted on heavy, peaty, slow-matured distillates that required years of patience. In 1934, choosing conviction over compromise, Taketsuru walked away from Yamazaki and traveled north to the cold coastal wilderness of Yoichi, Hokkaido, to build his own distillery, Nikka. These two men and their opposing distilleries became the twin foundations of an entire national industry. Japan didn't steal Scotland's secret. Scotland taught it to the most dedicated student it ever had. In Scotland, a distillery typically relies on a single, uniform copper still designed to define its identity. If a blender needs a different character, they must trade with other distilleries. Japan rejected this cooperative model out of necessity. At a single facility like Yamazaki, 6 pairs of copper pot stills operate side by side, each built with different neck heights, bulb shapes, and line arm angles. This architectural variation allows one distillery to produce a vast spectrum of distinct spirit profiles under a single roof. This spatial complexity is governed by a strict temporal discipline. Where global demand often pressures producers to rush stocks to bottling lines, Japanese houses employ a rigorous cellaring philosophy. Liquid laid down during the economic expansion of the 1980s remains resting in dark dunnage warehouses, held back systematically to secure the baseline of future blends. It is a system built on internal diversity and quiet restraint, where time is treated as a structural ingredient rather than a commercial deadline. Shokunin represents a lifelong devotion to mastering a single, chosen craft. In Japanese whiskey, this ethos transforms the master blender from a simple coordinator into a true author, treating the act of blending as a work of personal authorship, distinct from simple assembly. This philosophy extends directly to the barrel house. During the resource shortages of the mid-20th century, coopers turned to Mizunara, a rare native Japanese oak. A single Mizunara tree requires roughly 200 years to grow to harvest size. The wood is notoriously soft, porous, and difficult to shape without leaking, yet it rewards extreme patience by slowly imparting a specific aromatic signature of temple incense, cedar, and sandalwood. Through this challenging native timber, Japanese distillers discovered a sensory vocabulary that belonged entirely to their own history. By marrying disciplined craftsmanship with this ancient wood, the student had left imitation behind, stepping fully into distinction. In 2001, the International Whisky Establishment gathered in London for the World Whiskies Awards. For decades, these blind tastings had served to reaffirm a comfortable truth: Scotland reigned supreme. But that year, when the judges tallied the anonymous scores, a sudden silence fell over the room. The bottle that had outscored every single malt on Earth, earning the title of Best of the Best, did not come from Speyside or Islay. It was the Nika Yoichi 10-year-old. The response from Scottish distillers was initially total disbelief, a refusal to accept that an outsider could master their native craft. Skeptics dismissed the triumph as a fluke, a temporary aberration in the judging. Yet that denial evaporated only 2 years later. In 2003, Suntory's Yamazaki 12-year-old secured a gold medal at the International Spirits Challenge, confirming that the earlier victory was no accident, but a permanent realignment of the global stage. Japan didn't just make good whiskey, they made whiskey the world wasn't ready for. Between 2010 and 2020, exports of Japanese whiskey surged by 500%, transforming a highly localized craft into a global obsession. Demand far outpaced supply. The entire category reached an estimated valuation of $4.5 billion, growing at a relentless 8% annually. This sudden rush of global capital was punctuated in January 2014, when Suntory acquired Beam Inc., the maker of Jim Beam, for $16 billion, instantly creating the world's third-largest premium spirits company. But inside the quiet dunnage warehouses of Japan, this corporate triumph exposed an alarming vulnerability. The liquid inside the barrels could not be rushed. By 2015, the historic stocks had run dry, forcing the sudden discontinuation of legendary age statement bottles like Hibiki 17 and Hakushu 12. Bottles that sat on store shelves for $60 in 2010 evaporated from the retail market, only to reappear on international auction blocks commanding between $400 and $2,000. The student had not only matched the master, they had created a speculative gold rush that threatened to consume the very liquid that built their reputation. Behind the soaring prices and pristine bottles lay a quiet industry loophole. Until April 2021, Japan had no legal definition of what constituted Japanese whiskey. This regulatory vacuum allowed companies to import bulk grain and malt spirits from Scotland or Canada, bottle the liquid locally, and sell the resulting product under prestigious domestic branding. Although the Japan Spirits and Liqueurs Makers Association introduced voluntary standards in 2021 requiring domestic distillation and 3 years of maturation, these guidelines remain completely self-regulated rather than official, enforceable law. Genuine provenance is found by verifying the name of an actual physical distillery on the label. Bottles from established operations like Suntory, Nikka, Mars, Fuji, Akechi, or Chichibu represent authentic Japanese spirit. Conversely, missing distillery names, vague phrases about natural spring water, or suspiciously cheap age statements serve as immediate warning signs of foreign bulk spirit in disguise. The label says, Japan. That doesn't always mean Japan made it. Knowing the difference is worth more than any tasting note. Today, Japanese whiskey is no longer a tribute, but the global benchmark. As strict new authenticity laws finally protect its identity, the liquid faces its ultimate test, maintaining its soul amidst unprecedented scarcity. The apprentice didn't just copy the master, they redefined perfection. Share your thoughts below.